Who should the Bengals sign in free agency? Hi again, everyone. I'm James Rapien of allbengals.com and Cincinnati Bengals Talk. Welcome in, and it's an exciting time if you're a Bengals fan. As Cincinnati, well, they have plenty of cap space, could free up some more space with a Trey Waynes release, a Trey Hopkins release. You say goodbye to both of those guys. Could open up another $16 million, $17 million in space to use on who? Their own guys? Other guys? Well, what would I do? That's what this video is. We're going to do a video predicting what the Bengals will do in free agency. But this video is about what I would do. If the Bengals called me today and said, yeah, you could keep doing Cincinnati Bengals Talk and allbengals.com and the Locked On Bengals podcast, but we want you to help out in free agency and help us get some deals done. Which guys would you target, James? Well, this is what that video is. And my first call would be to the Houston Texans. I want Laremy Tunsil. Now, I'm not going to move mountains to get him, even though he is a mountain of a man, one of the best pass-blocking left tackles in the NFL. The reason I want Laremy Tunsil is twofold. One, he's 27, two-time Pro Bowler. Like I said, great pass blocker. You want to keep Joe Burrow upright. You have to deal with the Myles Garretts of the world, the TJ Watts of the world. So it makes sense from that perspective. Two, he's under contract for the next couple of years. Jason La Canfora reporting that the CBS Sports NFL Insider, that the Texans may be willing to eat some of that money on his contract, about $18 million this year and $19 next year. Look, if you could do that, then it makes a lot of sense, right? Because you're not necessarily taking the cap hit, and you could get elite tackle play potentially from a guy that should be still very much in his prime. But the other reason why I would make that move or be interested in making that move is because of, well, the right tackle spot. There aren't many right tackles that you look at in this free agent class and you say, oh, yeah, I want him. There's Morgan Moses. Obviously, you could re-sign Riley Reif. There are guys like that. You could go after Teron Armstead. And I wouldn't knock the Bengals for doing that, but he's had injury issues. He's had health issues. Laremy Tunsil really hasn't. Last year had a thumb thing that I think probably sat out some of the time, and I'm speculating there, but you're not in a rush to get back to play for the Houston Texans, are you? No, because they weren't going anywhere, and everybody knew it. So, to me, I would be interested in Laremy Tunsil if the price was right, but I can't assume that. I can't really speculate enough for this offseason plan. So, let's just assume that you can't get a deal done for Tunsil, that they're asking for 7 first-round picks, can't get it done. Because if it was reasonable, the 31st pick, a conditional 4th that could become a 3rd based on playing time, and maybe the Bengals get back a 5th rounder. Then to me, yeah, I'm interested in that deal for sure, because now you kill 2 birds with 1 stone, essentially. You get Tunsil, and you saw, which is an upgrade at left tackle, and you solve your issues at right tackle, assuming they think Jonah can play on the right side, which I guess is an assumption, but to me, I think he would be able to do that. That being said, let's just etch that one out. I made it my priority. I wanted to preface what I would do with that. There's been a lot of smoke, a lot of fire, a lot of whatever you want, rumblings about Ryan Jensen. And that's the guy I would get. Look, there are times when it's okay to spend on a 30-year-old or a 31-year-old. This is one of those times for the Bengals. And they are very much in win-now mode. They have a win-now quarterback, win-now weapons, a win-now defense, which I will get to. They need a win-now offensive line. And you know what that says if you go out and get Ryan Jensen? That's what you're going for. That's what you're striving for. And I think the Bengals are hoping Jackson Carman can be a starter in 2022. Well, what better way to help him along than get a guy like Ryan Jensen? And, of course, it's not necessarily about helping Jackson Carman. That's just sort of the aftermath and some of the positive stuff, the ripple effects that can benefit the entire offensive line. But Ryan Jensen is a nasty, physical, tough center that could help set the tone for an offensive line that hasn't been a tone setter, that has been the opposite of that. The Bengals need that. So I would go in, I would get him. I would imagine he's going to make around $13.5 million per year. That's your big free agent get. That would be mine. I would target him. And look, other teams may offer more, but I would say, Ryan, you have a chance to really bring stability here to this Bengals offensive line. Play with Joe Burrow. We're going to try to make a run at some of your other teammates, which I'll get to in a minute. But let's go. Let's pony on up. Let's go. And I know you're 31 and all that. It doesn't matter. By the way, I'm not done there. I'm going after Andrew Norwell, the kid from Anderson here in Cincinnati. He's a Cincinnati native, and he is someone that, to me, can, again, help stabilize that guard position. The Bengals, they need stability, right? They're not going to necessarily find a ton of youth in these areas, right? Where, yeah, you could go after Austin Corbett, for example, or you could go after Connor Williams, for example. Well, the Bengals passed on Connor Williams in the draft. Austin Corbett was a guy that was considered a bust in Cleveland for a couple of years and then got traded to the Rams. And look, those guys might be okay. Connor Williams has some penalty issues. I like Laken Tomlinson. He's also 30, and I think he's going to cost more than Andrew Norwell. The bottom line is Norwell's still a really, really good pass blocker. And he's a big dude, and he knows how to pass block. And that's what I'm focused on. I'm not saying that he's going to get out there on the edge in the wide zone and really be able to out-athlete guys. But could he hold up for another half second against Aaron Donald, especially alongside Ryan Jensen? Can he do just enough against the Tennessee Titans, who the Bengals do play next season? Those are the type of things that are the difference between Joe Burrow getting off the pass to Jamar Chase or T. Higgins or Tyler Boyd and not. So I would go after Andrew Norwell as well. I have the contracts here. He'd make probably around $7 million per season. I'm comfortable with that. I think he would be comfortable with that. So you're committing around $20 million per year to two guys. Yeah, they're on the wrong side of 30, but they're two higher end players at their respective positions, because I don't think the Bengals are going to spend $12 million on a James Daniels, which is the rumor right now. It was the rumor at the NFL Combine that he could make that much per year. They weren't in on Tooney at that $80 million mark over 5 years last year. Like, that's just not what they're going to do at guard. I think Andrew Norwell is a good mid-tier guard that they would be confident in. And all of this, it aligns with the cap. I did some of these cap numbers, so it's not like I'm just going and saying, spend all this money and make all these moves. Well, there's cap in mind. I'm not going to bore you with all of that. But the next step, to me, is that right tackle spot. Can you make the right tackle spot work? And there's one guy that fits sort of the age profile that the Bengals would go after. And I said it at the top, Laramie Tunsil would be my target, and you'd obviously have to trade for him. But Trent Brown is out there. Not yet 29 years old. To me, if you could get him 2-year deal, I would try to do it. You're paying for probably the final years of his prime. And suddenly now you look, your center's upgraded, your right tackle's upgraded, you have a left tackle in Jonah who you still feel good about, and you have Andrew Norwell who could play, if you needed him to play either guard spot, fine, but is going to plug into that guard spot, and you're going to feel really good about it. And so to me, that's exactly what you want. And I'm just going to look up Andrew Norwell. He spent a lot of time at left guard. I think he's an upgrade from Quentin Spain. And I think he can still win in the run game, by the way. I don't want to take that away from him. So if left to right, it's Jonah Williams, Andrew Norwell, Ryan Jensen, and then let's say it's Jackson Carman, or maybe Deontay Smith impresses, or maybe it's this guy, or maybe it's all these young guys. Maybe it's a guy they draft. And then Trent Brown. Look, you feel pretty good about the starters, as good as I've felt about any Bengals offensive line in a long time. And it's doable from a money standpoint. So I'll just go through the contracts real quick. I would imagine Trent Brown's going to make around $11 million per. You have a guy in Andrew Norwell around $7 million per, and then Ryan Jensen at 13. So that's $31 million roughly that you're spending on offensive line per year on average. That might not be the cap number, and it wouldn't be the cap number this year, but it gives you an idea. And again, I don't want to get too much into the weeds with that, but I have done the numbers, and that's part of what I would do. But it isn't just those guys. And so let's get to the Bengals' current free agents, because this one's going to hurt because I really, really like CJ Uzomah. I can't pay him $7, $8, $9 million per year. I can't do it. He was at 6 last year. If he wants something in that realm, that's great. But there's better out there There are better blockers out there. There are better pass catchers out there. And yeah, they may be a little older than CJ, but that's the part of it that's tough. So CJ, I probably, and I don't necessarily think the Bengals would do this. Again, this is what I would do. I might not re-sign him depending on what the number is. If you're talking $8-9 million per, thank you so much, CJ, for your time. I just can't do it. That being said, there are other guys that you say that to. Larry Ogunjobi, the report on Thursday from Tom Pelissero was he's going to make up to $10 million per season. That dog isn't hunting for me, as Dave Lapham would say. He says that dog will hunt sometimes. Yeah, I use that phrase to steal it from Lap. No. Larry Ogunjobi, no to Larry O at $10 million per. And I think the Bengals would say that as well. But I am retaining some of these guys. Some of them. And obviously this is after Bates is franchised, and you're assuming that's what he's going to play on this year. And it starts with BJ Hill. If you could keep BJ Hill 3 years, probably around $9 million per, that makes sense to me. He's a guy that got pressure, but is versatile. Doesn't get crushed in the run game the way Ogunjobi necessarily does, and should be entering his prime. Love the trade at the time when they traded for Billy Price. Those that have been here since then know that. And so, yeah, if you could get BJ Hill, you're probably only going to get one of Hill and Ogunjobi. And I would rather have Hill at $8.5 million, $8.75 million than Larry Ogunjobi at 10. And he's a 3-tech, and it's a weaker defensive tackle class. So I could certainly see why a team would go that route. I just don't think it's going to be the Bengals, and it certainly wouldn't be me. Another defensive tackle that I would target, especially because you are going to lose one of those guys most likely, is Solomon Thomas. I think you can get him a 1-year deal. He's a former top 5 pick, someone that could still be productive in this league, was okay for the Raiders last year, and it gives you some depth there, and you could still address it in the draft. I would imagine he would make around $2.5 million. So now you've invested in the defensive line. You lose Larry Ogunjobi. You bring in Solomon Thomas. You keep BJ Hill. We've addressed the offensive line with Jensen, Norwell, and Brown. And so now we get to Eli Apple. And I think that they could find a way to keep him. I do. I don't think it's going to be their first priority at cornerback. And that's why I have the Bengals signing Steven Nelson. 2-year deal, probably around $7 million per. He's 29 years old, had played with Mike Hilton in Pittsburgh. The Bengals reportedly had interest in him last year. And I know there's the J.C. Jackson rumor. I just don't think they're going to go that big on one specific player. And so to me, I would go get a guy like Steven Nelson, who's very much a win-now player and affordable enough where he's not going to prevent you from re-signing Eli Apple, which you could do, I would say, between $3 and $4 million, a 1-year deal. And now suddenly you have depth at corner, but you could still draft one because it's not like you're committed to Apple, 1-year deal. It's not like you're committed to Nelson long-term, 2-year deal. And it really opens things up for you, because if you don't draft a corner early because the board doesn't fall your way, you're not worried about it. At the same time, you leave yourself room to do that and the ability to add depth. So Steven Nelson, play outside opposite Chidobe Awuzie with Mike Hilton in the slot. You got Eli Apple backing him up, and probably a day 1 or day 2 draft pick as well. I feel pretty good about that cornerback room if that's the case. And then let's go big fish hunting. This is the one. This is the one I've been excited about. You're like, James, you didn't re-sign CJ Uzomah. What's going to happen? What are you going to do? Well, sometimes in life, you got to swing. You got to swing big. For my Reds fans out there, the most exciting time in my Reds fandom, I was about 10 years old. Ken Griffey Jr. They trade for Ken Griffey Jr. in 2000. And it was like, oh my God. That 99 Reds team, my favorite team of all time, they won 96 games, lost to the Mets in the tiebreaker to get into the postseason, and they traded for Ken Griffey Jr. All they had to give up was Mike Cameron and this and this. It was the most exciting thing ever. And I know it didn't work out, but sometimes big swings work. And I think, especially after I looked back and really looked at CJ Uzomah's play, and you remember the games where he was really big, right? Where he had big games against the Ravens, big games against the Jaguars. To me, Rob Gronkowski could still play big. He could still break tackles. He could still catch the ball up the seam, especially because he's going to be single covered always with Jamar Chase, with T. Higgins, with Tyler Boyd. You can only do so much. He helps as a blocker as well. He's going to open up things in the run game. I mean, you completely transform this offense, and I get it. I understand it. He's not going to be able to play for 17 games. That's fine. I want 12 regular season games out of Gronk, and I want him there for the postseason. Again, it's a win now mindset for me. And so Rob Gronkowski, 1 year, $7 million, 1 year, $8 million, something in that range. Maybe you have incentives that he could get to $10 million. That's fine. Whatever it is. I think he's a significant upgrade from CJ Uzomah. I get it. Not necessarily from a leadership standpoint. I don't know if anyone's better leader than Uzomah, and he's great with the media and all of those things. And I would love to keep both of them. But if it's Uzomah or Trent Brown, I'm saying Trent Brown. If it's Uzomah or Andrew Norwell, I'm saying Norwell. And that's what I kept coming back to. So I know some people might not like that, but I would do that, and then tight end would be a priority for me. And they could also, sign one of these, back end tight ends that could be decent, a Jordan Akins rather, someone in that range. OJ Howard would be interesting, but I just think they're going to prioritize cornerback depth over tight end depth. And maybe they draft a mid-round tight end and someone that can learn from Gronk and go from there. So to me, that's kind of my plan. Those are the big guys. Now, there's going to be under-the-radar guys they sign, some of their own guys to lower deals, all of those things. I'm not going to go into the weeds. We've already talked long enough. But to recap, the big fish, Ryan Jensen, the highest paid free agent of them all. I would say 3 years, $13.5 million per, something in that range. Andrew Norwell, in their quest to shore up the offensive line, gets one more big deal. I would say 3 years, $21 million roughly. That third year, he might not get there, but I would say that would probably get it done. Steven Nelson, you shore up the secondary with a proven commodity. He's under 30 years old and someone that played pretty well last year. 2-year deal aligns with what you got Cheeto on the books for as well. 2 more seasons. Trent Brown, another big fish, a guy who's literally big and going to change the way you operate at right tackle. Not many right tackle options out there. I think he could certainly be a huge option there. Eli Apple, again, depth at corner. I think they're going to prioritize it. BJ Hill, they're going to keep one of those 2 guys. And then Solomon Thomas. With Larry Ogunjobi walking, they find a way to get a guy in who has talent and could help them in that department. So let me know what you think. I think the Bengals would be much, much better with Rob Gronkowski, Andrew Norwell, Steven Nelson, Trent Brown, Eli Apple, BJ Hill, Solomon Thomas, Ryan Jensen. But what do you think? And what is your offseason plan? I'll give my prediction for the Bengals free agent haul, because it will be a haul regardless. It might be some of their own guys, more of their own guys than I just prioritized. But to me, I need to get a win now offensive line. That's my priority. And I think the Bengals are able to accomplish it with this plan. For Andrew Fox Miller, our channel manager, I'm James Rapien. We'll be back with our prediction for what the Bengals are going to do in free agency and so much more right here on Cincinnati Bengals Talk.